Hello and welcome. I'm really excited to be a part of the Altenew Educator Certification Program. And the cards today, 6 of them, are part of the final challenge that I've received for level 1 in that program. The video is a little bit longer than I would have liked to have done, but I wanted to share some of the detailed techniques as I go through the process. I made this set for the gals, but I also made a duplicate set for the guys. You can see those over on my blog, but I will put a list for the colors that I used for the guys down below in the description, as well as links for all of the products that you'll see me use today. I hope you enjoy the video. Be sure and click the like below and subscribe. That would be super. And without further ado, let's just hop on over into the studio. See you there. Okay, for the 6 2-for-1 technique cards that we're going to make today, and what I mean by 2-for-1 is you use one technique and create pieces that you can use on 2 cards really quickly. I'm going to use a variety of distress inks. I'm going to start, I have some vintage photo, antique linen, mustard seed, festive berries, worn lipstick, carved pumpkin, Victorian velvet, spun sugar. I also have a white that's this unicorn white by Hero Arts, and I really like that white. And then in my stash, I have this Brilliance Galaxy Gold, which is a really fun, shiny ink, and so I can't wait to use that. So the stamps I'm going to use are the Altenew tie-dye motifs, the bold alphabet set, layered cupcake, the halftone circles nesting set, the shattered triangle dies, this hello sentiment from a Rosy Posy mini stamp set, the simple shapes, a couple triangles, and then the mini thanks stamp I'm going to pull in that sentiment. So to get started, I am going to just use a few of those colors, and I'm pulling out the medium border from that tie-dye motifs. And I'm just going to go ahead and just start stamping across here. I'm going to start with this worn lipstick and then just slowly maneuver my way through with a variety of the carved pumpkin, mustard seed, and Victorian velvet. So we'll just speed it up a little bit here so you don't have to go on, but you get the picture. So as I go through all the colors, then I've decided that I will go ahead and just start them all over again with a repeating pattern there. So you can see this is really pretty quick and easy. I really love this stamp set. Okay, there we go. So the next thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to cut out a sentiment, and I've decided I'm going to use the word hi, and we'll pull out the H and the I from the bold alphabet die set and get those all ready. And I do want to tell you that I have always had, I've got a new machine here from Sunlit. It's a Bera. This one's a big one. It's 9 inches. And I really like it. It only has 2 cutting platforms. I'm going to use it for some other things. But anyway, I'm going to line up the H and the I die using a ruler here, just so I can make sure it's straight. And then I'm going to add some tape, just some low tack tape to keep it in place as I run it through the machine. One thing I like about this one is it has all sorts of great functions, like you can layer it or create different depths and so forth. So I will do a separate video on that at another time. So I'm just going to pull out that H and the I and keep all the bits because that's going to be for our second card. Now I want to fill in something for the background of this H and the I on the first card. And then for our second card, I also want to cut out the H&I again because I'm going to create a shadow using this Festive Berries. And you can see my ink blending here is not like super awesome, but I'm not really worried about it because it's going to be just a little bit of a shadow, and then the part that's going to show up behind the H&I in card 1 will be fine. So you can see. Now I'm going to glue this down using this Barely Art Glue, which I love because I love the fine tip on it. And then we just glue the back on there. So that card is almost done. I'm going to work on the sentiment for the second card while that dries just a little bit. So like I mentioned before, I'm just going to put that red as a background. And so I'm just going to glue the originals on the front, just creating a little bit of a shadow for our second card. Okay, those are done. So what I want to do with this is I want to give it a little bit more pop. So I'm just going to run right lightly around the edge of the card using the Festive Berries. And you'll see when we pop this up on the card base in a little bit, it just gives it a little more depth. So for our second card, I want to go back to the Altenew tie-dye motifs, but this time I'm going to take the small and the medium strips. And first I'm going to create a card base with this mustard seed. I'm going to ink blend on the back. And the blue piece that I have back behind that, that's just a piece of silicone. I have found that especially when I'm ink blending on a large area, that it's really helpful to have that. It helps keep things from sliding all around. So I find that really helpful. So I'll just get that out of the way. And now I'm going to line up the H and the I sentiment on here where I want it. Again, using that T rule to make sure that I've got it straight. And then when I pop this top of the eye on there, you want to make sure that your colors are lined up, and I didn't have it upside down. So first I'm going to create a line underneath that using that Festive Berries and just ink up one side of that border. And then I'm going to come in and kind of cross across that, not really inking up the whole thing. And it doesn't have to be totally perfect, as you can see. This is just kind of more of a rustic look. And now I'm going to the really small one, back to that again, and going back in the middle. So there we go. We have that panel done. So the last thing I need to do is I'm just going to pop it up on some fun foam, craft foam, whatever you call it. I usually just buy it in big sheets and cut it up. I like that because it gives me full coverage on the back side. And then I'm just going to put these on some card bases, and we will call 2 cards done. All right, lots of fun there. Okay, so moving on to our second 2-for-1. I'm bringing in the Altenew Deco Wallpaper Stencil and the layered cupcake and the nested circles dies. And the first thing I'm going to do on this one is I'm going to ink up a background, and I'm going to use this antique linen in one direction, but I just want to go really, really lightly on it. So hardly touching it at all. This is just to help give it a little bit different of an effect. And then I'm going to flip the stencil around and bring in some of the other colors. So you can see that's just really light. So I'm going to try and line this up as best as I can. It won't be perfect, but you want to have the angles and lines line up to a degree. So I'm just going to bring in a few of the colors, and I'm using my little finger dauber brushes. I've talked about them before, and I really love them because they are brushes and not those foam daubers. And so they work really well. And so I'm just going to go over in a variety of different places with the different colors. No rhyme or reason to it, just kind of filling it in so we have a montage of goodness in the background here. And then I really like that yellow, and I feel like I covered up a lot of it, so I'm just going to add a little bit more in here. Okay, we are about done. Okay, so that card base is done, and you can see just a little bit of that antique linen back in the background, but it's just ever so slight. So now what I'm going to do is bring over one of the circles out of this nesting circle. It's actually, I think, the largest one, and position it on this panel where I want it. I'm just going to bring out that big old machine again and cut it off. And what I decided to do is to sort of offset a little bit, and I'm going to use the inside circle for the second card. So we'll put that to the side, and you're going to see I just throw things all around. I am a really messy crafter, but you know what? I think the end result is fine. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to get out my Misty, and we're just going to work on the main card right now. And I want to get started. I'm going to go ahead and create the 2 cupcakes that we're going to use. 1 cupcake on each card. And I love this set because you can make cupcakes in colors for anybody. It's a lot of fun. And using my Misty Positioner tool here, I can do 2 really quickly using the same piece of cardstock without moving anything. All I have to do is flip it around. So I'm going to ink this up with that vintage photo. I really like that color, and I think I'm going to have to get some re-inker here shortly, but anyway, it works for this. And I've got that Stampendable tool again. I really like that to help give some good pressure and evenness there. And I usually am a 2 stamper kind of a person, so that's another reason I really like this tool. I don't have to worry about trying to get it lined up again. So we're just going to get that all pressed on there, and then quickly flip the card paper around, and then we will do the same thing one more time with the brown, getting our outline all set up. And one more, I think. Okay. Okay, so now it's time to start all of the layering. And I'm going to start with the wrapper on the bottom. I think some people try and do multiple things at one time. I just like to go a step at a time. So I'm going to start with the base. Well, I thought I was going to do the cupcake first for whatever reason. But you're going to see I'm going to change my mind really quickly. No. Who doesn't like a chocolate cupcake? Okay, so you can see. Most of the time I do the paper wrapper first. I don't know why I decided I was going to do the chocolate cupcake first this time around, but as you can see, there are many different ways you can do it. Just going to ink up again. It's making me hungry just looking at that. I haven't had chocolate in a long time, and I'm just kind of craving it, I think. I want it to look like a really rich, deep, dark chocolate. Okay. All right. So now maybe we're going to move on to the paper wrapper at this point in time. So you can see it lines up, and excuse my fingers, boy, what a mess. But there are those little points, and you're going to use those to line up right there around the edges. I just don't ever go get manicures, and all of the hand sanitizer has really done a horrible number on my hands to begin with, and then I do a lot of other things besides stamping. Maybe I should start going to get a manicure. But anyway, I'm going to pull in the sponge sugar. I just want to have a little bit of a light color on the background and not be overwhelming there. So we're going to do that. And then flip it around and do the other side. Okay. Then we're going to bring in some bling on this one a little bit. I am going to bring in that Galaxy Gold. Have you ever seen, like, lots of times those paper wrappers come in gold or silver? I also have a silver version of this ink, so maybe next time I'll bring that in and see what that looks like. I actually haven't even tried that as the whole background. That might be kind of fun. But anyway, so let's go ahead and get this one lined up. All of those little ridges, they do a really good job of giving you guidelines on places to line up. And I think that this layering stamp is really forgiving, even though you see me just taking forever here to feel like I've just got it lined up as I want it. Sorry that took so long. Okay. Now, to get up in this gold, it's got this extra cover on it to help you not have it dry out so fast. And that one, I'm probably going to stamp that again. Yeah, we need a little bit more gold. Look at that. Can you see that shine? I wish it looked as pretty on the camera as it does in person. I just really love it. So we'll go ahead and get this other side. Okay, now it is time for the frosting. I have to tell you, the frosting part of cake and cupcakes and all of that, that's totally my favorite. Love it. I always want the corner piece. Okay, sorry, my head is so much in the way there. Okay, so we're just gonna line that up. I could have sped through this whole thing, but I thought it was helpful for at least one of them for you guys to get to see that. Now, what you're going to see here is I picked Victorian Velvet. But then I remembered that really wasn't the color that I wanted for my base. It really was supposed to start off with mustard seed. And because that Victorian velvet was so dark, I had my doubts that it was going to take anything very well on top of it. But you're going to see I'm going to continue through here trying to see if I can save it by going with carved pumpkin. Not really liking the way that that was. But it did end up being the second layer of my main one. And then I'm going to come in with my top layer of festive berries here. And so what I decided to do is not work on that one anymore, but flip it over and make another one. So there you go. We've got two. We're going to fussy cut them out really quickly. There is a die set for this, but I don't have it. So fussy cutting, just for something simple like this, it's not that difficult for me. It's not super intricate. So again, there are so many options on this. And there's the second one cut. Okay, so we have two cupcakes. I know it seemed like it took a long time. So for our second card base, actually we're going to do our first card base. To go in the background of that circle, we want to have a background. And on the one hand, since that circle's really the only part plus the edges, I could just do a little bit, but by the time I have to fill in that space, there's only a little bit of white left, so I figured what the heck, might as well. And then our second panel, we are going to do that one with this gold and do a swipe method here. So this will take a little bit more ink, but it's a lot of fun. So I'm just dragging that across, and I did order a ring inker on this one. I'm bringing in that little piece of card there to keep my fingerprints from getting all over it. But look at all that shine. It's going to be a fun card. So now I'm going to have dimension on the cupcake, so I didn't want to do anything with this. I just wanted to go ahead and put it flat. And you'll see in my main card that I decided after I did this that I really liked having that inked up edge, so I did go around and do that. But here I'm just popping some of the fun foam from my scrap pile that I have for that. And I'm just going to plunk those just right in the middle. And then I'm going to add the sentiment. What does it say? Life is better with cupcakes. Isn't it though? So whereas I could have done black, I did decide that to bring in that brown from the chocolate cupcake again and go with the brown there. So we've got that one, and we'll go ahead and do the second on here. You can see these actually, they came together pretty quickly and easily, even though I've been rambling on for a long time. I took a long time on the cupcakes, but anyway, they're fun. I missed a little bit of the S down there, so I'm going to re-ink a little bit there. Do that second one, give a little extra pressure over there. There we go. So go ahead, and you're going to see I changed my mind on these like right after I got the tape on there. I did decide I need a little more pop, so I am going to put the festive berries around the outside here. When you see the cards on my blog, you will see that I did still change them because I went around the circle and everything. But the tip I have is anytime you are going around the outside edge, you want to let it set and dry for a little bit, because otherwise you can get a mess all over. trying to shake it and dry it there a little bit. I can't tell you how many little test ones I messed up by running my fingers through it or leaving some ink down there, whatever. So now we've got 4 done. Let's go to the last set. We're going to use the Altenew Square Stencil Weave and the Deco Wallpaper again on this. And I would say this set is going to be my favorite. We're going to bring in the Shattered Triangle die. That one's a lot of fun. That Hello Sentiment that I talked about from Rosie Posey. A couple of the triangles out of the Simple Shapes, and then this Thank You Sentiment from the Many Thanks stamp set. Now, this one brings in some of the mixed media kind of technique that I'm a super fan of, and I do that a lot outside of my card making. And so, again, I brought in that silicone mat. I like to use these big makeup brushes sometimes when I'm doing the background. And I'm intentionally being sloppy with this one and not being perfect. Wanted to add just a little bit more there. Okay, and then again, I'm going to do that same swiping technique of the Brilliance. I don't need to fill up the whole card because I'm really only going to use it for 2 things. One, to cut out those shattered triangles. So I'm just going to do enough for that. And then I'm going to save what I cut out from the triangles, the leftover, if you will, for a stencil. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and cut out those triangles. So I'm going to bring that big old die cutting machine out again. I really do need to do something to show you guys that one. And I'm just going to line these up on here. I don't really have to tape these down because it doesn't matter if they jiggle around a little bit. And I'm just going to run that through really fast. And then pop out all those triangles. It works well for those intricate designs. Okay, so now we're going to take this Hero Arts, the Unicorn White. I'm just going to ink it up a little bit over here on the side because I don't want to contaminate my ink. And then I'm just going to bring in one of those makeup sponges there and just randomly go around the background. I'm not going to cover the whole thing. I just want to have some texture in here. That's part of the stuff I love about mixed media. Bringing in the mustard seed through this Deco wallpaper. Just picking different places to add some layers and depth and dimension. There's nothing right or wrong about any of it. If I felt like it, I could go back in and cover the whole thing up and change it again. But anyway. So I have some old books around, some scraps that I've pulled out. These actually came out of some old home ec book that I got for like $1 at a antique shop or something. And those are really fun to have laying around. And so what we're going to do with this one is I picked out the ones that I thought I wanted to use, and I'm going to make a little bit kind of a square kind of collage pieces. And this is actually introducing a recycle, upcycle kind of a bit into the set of cards. And then we're also going to bring in those die cut pieces that we did earlier with that Brilliance ink. So I'm just trying to decide where I want to put them and what size. And so I'm just going to go tear them back a little bit. We'll speed through that. And I want to make 4 different squares, if you will. And then at the end, I'm going to use a piece for stamping our sentiments on the bottom. Since I had berries, I thought that the grapes would probably work out best on that one. And I really need that piece there because it's got room for me to, that's blank, that I can put the cinnamon in a minute. Okay. So I think that's all going to be good there. That might be a little bit big. And to help roughen it up a little bit more, I'm going to go around the edge again with that festive berries. And then when I'm done with that on each of them, I'm going to kind of crunkle them up. And then this paper is kind of fragile. So if you're doing it with something like this, you just have to know you might need to be careful and slow when you start pulling them back out again so they don't tear. But if they do, it's okay. So I'm like that piece there is torn, but it's all right because I'm just going to glue it all on here, kind of like a collage. Just picking all of my different places there. And then I'm going to bring in these triangles. I want to go around the edge of those also. And I am going to let these dry for just a little bit. And so we will go and work on the sentiment next. So bringing in this hello from the mini Rosy Posy stamp set. And I'm just going to ink that up with Born lipstick. Okay, and I like the way that looks, kind of cute. Okay, so now let's go ahead and adhere that onto the bottom of the card. And then we'll go and we'll pull in those shiny triangles. It's kind of a interesting mix of all of this kind of rough, organic, rustic, and then shiny, bright stuff. I think it's kind of fun. So trying to figure out where to put these, I didn't want to cover up all the elements under there. So I'm also trying to make sure that everything faces a little bit differently. So make things a little bit asymmetrical. Okay. So now we've got all that put together. Last thing we need to do is just go ahead. I'm going to add some more of that craft foam on the back of here and adhere it to a top folding card this time. And there's our 5th card done. All right, so let's start the 6th. Now this one's going to be the polar opposite. This is going to be a clean and simple card. And like I said, I'm going to use those triangles for a stencil. So what I'm going to do here is I am just going to score 4 rows on the 1/8 inch groove there. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then what I want to do is I want the side that pops up is going to be on the top. That was the side we ran in, but I'm going to flip it over. And then because I'm going to be stenciling on here and I don't want those to be covered up, I am going to bring in just a little bit of tape, put over the edge of that just so I can mask that off. And I have fun with this card, though clean and simple is not usually my thing. But anyway, so we're going to bring in this and just go very lightly, just kind of giving the impression of, hey, there's some triangles here. Not trying to be perfect and fill that in. Does that seem to be a theme for me? Yeah, probably because ink blending is not my forte. I need to keep working on that. Okay, now I'm going to bring in the triangles from the simple shapes. And I'm just going to use some of the mustard seed and randomly pick some different places to put that, remembering that I'm going to want to stick my sentiments over there on the side. So I need to be sure and leave some space there. Now I'm switching to the smaller and going back in with that festive berries again. And just trying to add several different areas there. So for the sentiment, I'm going to pull in my Misty again because I'm always afraid I'm going to line it up wrong. And since I already have the tape there, I'm just going to use that instead of pulling out the magnet. But I like where that's going to line up. And we're just going to do that with Festive Berries and re-ink it again. There we go. I like how the T and the H just went right along the edge of that triangle. Isn't that cool? So now I am just going to lay this straight on that card base because it's a clean and simple card, not going to do much else to that. And so here we have it, our 6th card. So clean and simple, mixed media. Then we've got our Life is Better with Cupcakes duo here. And then our 2-for-1 high. It was a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed this. I know it was a little bit longer, but thank you.